We are now live.
Very well, then we'll call this meeting to order. This is the meeting of the Frankfort Village Board on Monday, April 20th.
We are now live.
Very well, then we'll call this meeting to order. This is the meeting. Oh, we're getting some interesting, we're hearing ourselves over again, but that's fine. We'll go to our clerk, Brian Feary, for the roll.
Mayor Holland,
Here.
Trustee Borelli,
Here.
Trustee Clavio,
Here.
Trustee Farina,
Here.
Trustee Ogle,
Here.
Trustee Petro,
Here.
Trustee Severia,
Here.
Village Clerk is here. Attorney Mahoney,
Here.
Attorney Lamore,
Present.
Chief Farica,
Present.
Village Administrator Pisha,
Present.
Assistant Administrator Cook.
Here.
Attorney Mahoney,
Here.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the
flag of the United States of America
and to the
Republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible, with
liberty and justice for all.
Next item on our agenda is what we call the unanimous consent agenda. All items on the unanimous consent agenda are considered routine in nature and will be voted on after a single motion. If any of the trustees want to discuss any of the items in more detail, we'll just remove that item from the consent agenda. So I first ask, do any of the trustees want to remove any items from the consent agenda?
Can we remove the Financial Affairs Committee report in the budget,
We
please?
certainly can.
Thank you.
That will be taken off the consent agenda. And anything else? Then I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda without the Financial Affairs Committee report.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Trustee Ogle and a second by Trustee Petro. We certainly want our audience who is watching this broadcast on the internet or on their televisions to know about the things that we're going to vote on. So we'll go over each of them just briefly. The first one is the approval of the minutes from our last meeting on April 6th. The second one is the approval of the bills, and we'll go to the chair of our Finance Committee, Adam Borelli, for a report on that issue.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The bills tonight total $1,376,724.06. Quite substantial, but if you break it down, a big chunk of it is going towards the wastewater treatment plant. Specifically, a payment to J.J. Henderson in the amount of $507,690.44. And then another one to Williams Brothers in the amount of $547,873.44. And that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Adam. And then we have a couple of clerical items, and we're going to go to Trustee Ogle for the release of our executive session minutes and destruction of verbatim records.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a little background on this. This is, as you said, it's be two motions. The first is the release of the executive session minutes. We are authorized, and from time to time, we do go into closed session to discuss matters that are specifically called out in the Opens Meeting Act. It's not to discuss them outside of the public view. These are very specific, and later on in this meeting, the mayor will call us to executive session, and he will also cite the particular instance where it's appropriate for us to go into. Again, the first item that's on here, we have to make electronic recordings of all of these. And after a review of the Village of Frankfort executive written minutes, the village attorney, actually, I'm sorry, the first motion here should just be to adopt a resolution authorizing the release of all and part of the Village of Frankfort executive session minutes as presented. The review of the executive session minutes, the Attorney Mahoney and Administrator Pisha forwarded this recommendation to the board to release the executive session minutes with redactions. The board has taken this recommendation under advisement, conducted its own review, and finds that the need for confidentiality to all or part of the minutes listed on Exhibit A no longer exist, and therefore these written executive session minutes may be open to the public with redactions. Additionally, the Open Meetings Act permits governmental bodies to destroy the verbatim records of closed sessions not less than 18 months after the completion of the closed executive session recorded. Again, the first motion on here was to adopt a resolution authorizing the release of all or part of the Village of Frankfort executive session minutes as presented. And the second motion, since it's in the consent agenda still, is to adopt a resolution authorizing the destruction of certain audio recordings of Village of Frankfort executive session meetings held prior to October 20th, 2018. And that's all we have for that, Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Keith. And those are all of the items on the consent agenda this evening. So before we vote on those, if there is anyone in the audience who wanted to make a comment to the village board about any of these issues, then please speak up now. And not hearing anyone, we will go to our clerk for the vote.
Trustee Borelli,
Aye.
trustee Clavio,
Yes.
trustee Farina,
Yes.
trustee Ogle,
Yes.
trustee Petro,
Yes.
trustee Severia.
Yes.
Motion carries.
And we have one more item of business this evening, and that is the budget for next year. Certainly an interesting item for all of us, considering what's going on in our economy right now. We will go back to our chair of the Financial Affairs Committee, Adam Borelli, for a report on the budget.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That the Village of Frankfort proposed the 2021 budget was presented to the Financial Affairs Committee on March 11th for review and consideration. Since this meeting, many changes have occurred related to COVID-19, including the governor's stay-at-home order, which began on March 21st. The annual budget must be passed before the start of the village's fiscal year, which begins on May 1st. Due to the unknown effects and challenges the village faces related to the COVID-19 virus, staff recommends moving forward with the budget as presented at the March meeting. As we obtain more clarity in the coming weeks, this budget will most likely need to be amended. Revenue and expenditure line items will be monitored closely. It should also be noted that due to the village's conservative nature, the village has created a healthy financial reserve, which could help offset potential revenue shortfalls the village will likely face in the coming months. The fiscal year 2021 budget as presented at the March 11th meeting includes all funds. It's comprised of a proposed grand total of $38,209,500 in revenues and $46,652,500 in expenditures, of which $22,678,700 are budgeted for capital projects and debt service payments. Additional information regarding each of the village's individual funds is as follows. Start with the governmental funds, and specifically the general fund for operations. The general operating budget includes $19,343,600 in revenues and $16,085,000 in expenditures. Services included in this year's budget are general administration, police protection, public works, building and code enforcement, developmental services, and garbage disposal. These expenditures are paid for with revenues such as sales tax, property tax, and income tax. Revenues are approximately $930,000 higher than the previous year budget, mainly due to the voters approving a 1% non-home rule sales tax 2 years ago. The new sales tax became effective July 1st of last year and has allowed for additional police officers as well as personal enhancements related to building and development services. Going over to the capital fund, the general capital fund includes $6,014,700 of budgeted expenditures. The funding for these expenditures mainly comes from the end of the year transfers from the general operating fund. The largest budgeted expenditures within the capital fund for the upcoming year will continue to be the street resurfacing program. $3 million is included in this budget, which is a substantial increase from last year, $800,000 more than last year's budget. Other expenditures included for the upcoming year are community enhancements, development incentives, and vehicles and equipment for our public works and police department. In addition, funds have been budgeted for the potential Sauk Trail bike path, of which there is a potential for partial grant funding and for engineering related to the potential Pfeiffer Road extension project. Going over to the motor fuel tax fund, the budgeted expenditures are $1,510,000 $100 and includes the St. Francis Road Bridge and Path Project. Revenues are budgeted at $951,400 and include monthly motor fuel tax allotments, the new Transportation Renewal Fund allotments, and grant reimbursements related to the St. Francis project. These revenues are less than the anticipated expenditures, and therefore motor fuel tax reserves will most likely be used to cover the village's local match for this large grant project. Moving over now to the utility, the Sewer and Water Fund for operations is proposed at $11,691,200 in revenues and $6,855,800 in expenses. Almost all of the revenues come from the sewer and water changes. The revenue is used to pay for utility operations. In addition, funds are transferred to the Sewer and Water Capital Fund to pay for capital projects and debt service. Going over to the Capital Fund for Sewer and Water, an end-of-year transfer will be made from the Sewer and Water Operating Fund to assist with the costs associated with the general capital needs of the Utility Department and the Illinois Environmental Protection Agency loan repayments. The budget expenditures are estimated at $11,373,900 for the upcoming year and include approximately $5.8 million for the replacement of aged and deteriorated water mains and well improvements, and $3.4 million for IEPA loan payments for the wastewater treatment plant consolidation project. And then going over to that wastewater treatment plant capital fund, the fund is a sub-fund of the Sewer and Water Capital Fund and accounts for the largest capital project to date for the Village of Frankfort. The budgeted expenditures related to this project are $3,780,000, and this project is expected to be completed in this upcoming budget year. The total cost of the project is estimated to come in under the original $60 million that was estimated. Moving over to the Police Pension Fund. The Frankfort Police Pension Fund is a trust fund, and the resources must be held in trust for members and beneficiaries and cannot be used to pay for other village programs. Additions and deductions are budgeted at $1,707,500 and $1,033,000 respectively. So on the March 11th, at that March 11th Financial Affairs Committee, it was the consensus of the committee to recommend the village board approval of the 2021 fiscal budget. It is important to note that the village has the ability to modify the budget throughout the year. Difficult financial discussions in the coming weeks and months are inevitable. The village board and staff are ready to work with the community to determine appropriate adjustments to the budget and to determine service levels that may be needed to modify, that may need to be modified to reflect the economic impacts of this pandemic. To make modifications to the budget, we must consider our operational and capital needs as well as the use of our reserves. We believe these decisions should not be made until the village gains additional insight. The board acknowledges its fiduciary duty to the taxpayers of Frankfort and is committed to continuing the village's longstanding practice of fiscal prudence as we navigate the months ahead. So the motion before us, well, I'll ask for a motion to accept the recommendation of the Financial Affairs Committee and approve the Village of Frankfort municipal budget for fiscal year 2021.
We have a
moved,
motion
Mr.
by
Mayor.
trustee Borelli. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Yes, Mr.
that.
Mayor.
We have a second by trustee Clavio. Any discussion? Margaret?
Thank you, Mayor Holland. First, I wanted to acknowledge staff and their hard work to bring us this far with a budget. And I appreciate the acknowledgement given the pandemic and its impact with our local economy, both with our business community, as well as with our residents perhaps facing layoffs, et cetera. I do believe going forward, we need to tweak it. And I was just wondering if staff or Mayor Holland, perhaps you have a glimpse in what types of changes we'll see that Adam didn't go forward with sharing this evening. Any particular line items that you're looking to taking away, and then any additional stimulus for our local businesses, et cetera.
We are considering stimulus ideas. So strangely, at a time when we're clearly going to have less revenue than we predicted, we're talking about possibly spending more money. That's going to result in us needing to look at places to reduce expenditures or reduce the amount that we put towards our capital fund at the end of the year. And those are the discussions that we'll be having in the future, hopefully when we can get back together.
If I could add, Mr. Mayor, as well, that we will be, as additional numbers come available, likely will not see the first impacts to the economy and to our revenues until June. I think once we start getting a little bit of a snapshot, that'll give us a better idea of being able to make recommendations or where we think that we might be. But right now, because we don't have any baseline to use, that's why the recommendation was to move forward just with the current budget. And then again, we can adjust expenditures as needed as we move forward.
I appreciate your feedback, and I just had one follow-up discussion item. And I'm supportive of the budget in front of us. I'm just wondering, when will we have a strategic planning session? This past year, we had an election last year. We've been on board all together for a year now. Typically with budgets, you see a strategic vision document along with objectives, then the budget to support it, as well as staff goals. And I'm just wondering if we have a timeline when we will be able to converse and discuss our vision looking forward, especially given the pandemic, what we can propose and share with our residents.
We have not set a timeline to have a strategic planning session or that sort of discussion.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Holland.
Trustee Ogle.
Thank you. I wanted to comment on the budget. Again, I think this process that we've been going through for months and staff has been going through came up with a great budget. This pandemic and this whole situation, I mean, we're still in the middle of people are heavily focused on their health and staying healthy, as well as there's job losses, businesses that are shut down and people are going. But again, it's very important for us to be focused on the recovery for our village and planning and staying ahead. As a village, Frankfort is heavily dependent on sales tax. And this is a huge ding for us. Nearby, the city of Joliet is expecting, right now they're experiencing 70 to 80% decrease in their revenues. And even with a $70 million reserve, they expect that they will probably be out of money by October or November of this year, unless things turn around. So I think it's important to take action quickly. You don't want to wait too long or delay, drag things out. The village is financially healthy, and we worked very hard to do that, in spite of the fact that the state of Illinois is not financially healthy. And I know we will watch this very closely. I would just, our revenues, I expect they're going to go down. The price of oil dropped to a negative $37 today, and no one is driving. There's no motor fuel tax being generated because people are not driving their cars. These are big hits for us. I think this is, and I don't want it to sound negative. I think it's important for us to address these things quickly. We see this on the horizon and look for the positive outcome for us, recovery for our village. And there are programs as a village. I'm not sure whether we are properly equipped to do too much in the way of stimulus, only because we cannot simply print money or raise taxes at whims. But again, I look forward to us watching this very carefully. And as Trustee Borelli had said, and Adam, you did a great job on that whole presentation with the two. We can adopt and amend different things to our budget as we go, and we should do that. We're going to have to do that. Other than that, it was a great budget, and we're moving forward, and hopefully we will keep Frankfort financially healthy.
Anyone else? Trustee Borelli.
No, I appreciate the comments. I think it's so hard to predict right now. I actually talked to Jenny before the meeting, and just to get a sense of what other players were, IML and others were saying about, projected loss to revenue and sales tax, et cetera. And it's just seems like it's so far off the map that it's almost at a point where we can't even quite yet modify our budget to project at a level that's meaningful. So I think, waiting a couple months, kind of seeing how this plays out will be helpful. Fortunately, we have a lot in reserves. That doesn't mean that if there's like large capital, I don't know, a truck replacement or some other capital improvements or something that was in the capital budget that we're planning on doing, we could potentially put off some of those, maybe delay a little bit. However, I would call, I don't want to do that to like something as such as the street resurfacing program. That's something that we passed that sales tax, with the caveat that we're going to pave the roads, and I'd like us to continue to do that. But I don't know if there's a truck replacement or something else that maybe we could that was planned for the first quarter, maybe we could push it off to the second or third quarter to buy ourselves a little bit of time. So that's kind of where I am with it. In addition, I mean, by continuing to go ahead with the street resurfacing, especially, that is sort of a stimulus, right? We're putting money into the economy for our contractors, and I think that helps in some regards. But as far as doing some sort of loan program like Unanimous has, I wouldn't support that. That's not really our business, and I think that's something that I'm not for.
May I piggyback on Trustee Borelli's comments?
Certainly.
I appreciate what you said about the street resurfacing, and I wholeheartedly agree. In addition, I would certainly like to see our police supported in making sure that we keep that head count in there and increase the number of police officers in our community and make sure that continues to be a priority.
Anyone else?
Well, I dropped off. I think I missed half the conversation, Mayor, but I do echo what Trustee Borelli and Trustee Ogle said. I would not support a stimulus. I think that, we need to maintain our streets. We need to maintain, having good, solid infrastructure and the police force out there. I think that's our primary goal, and we should stick to that.
Thank you, Gene. Anyone else? Well, good comments. We will be discussing this more in the future, I can assure you. We do have a motion and a second, so we'll go to our clerk, Brian Ferry, for the vote.
Trustee Clavio,
Yes.
Trustee Farina,
Yes.
Trustee Ogle,
Yes.
Trustee Petro,
Yes.
Trustee Severia,
Yes.
Trustee Borelli.
Yes.
Motion carries.
The next item on our agenda this evening is called the Mayor's Report. The first item on the Mayor's Report are committee appointment approvals for this coming year. We're very pleased with the group of people who applied to be on committees for the Village of Frankfort. These are volunteers who want to get involved in their government, who want to give, frankly, all of us advice from individuals in our community. And it's very helpful when we are making decisions and talking about such things as what's important in the budget and what's not. So we have a list of the new committee members, and I would entertain a motion to approve the Village of Frankfort Committee and Commission appointments for fiscal year 2020-2021.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion. Who made the motion?
Trustee Borelli.
Trustee Borelli and Trustee Petro, I think, made the second.
Correct.
Yes.
So any discussion?
I just had one comment. I want to acknowledge all the returning committee members and thank them for their service. And I look forward to continuing working with them. And I'd like to welcome the new committee members. It's exciting the amount of new applicants we had this year. There were a few appointments I'm concerned about a conflict of interest. So I'm just going to abstain this evening out of respect for that concern.
Thank you, Trustee Farina. Anyone else? Trustee Petro.
I wanted to echo the comments. There were a lot of returning names on the committees, but there were quite a few new names that were added to committees. So I just was really pleased to see the participation and encouraged by the number of people wanting to get involved with the Village of Frankfort. And I do believe these committees bring great advice and different perspectives to the meetings. And I look forward to working with our existing and new members this year.
Thank you, Jessica. Anyone else? Trustee Ogle.
Thank you, Mayor. To echo Jessica, Trustee Petro's comments too, there were a fantastic group that applied this year. A couple people that had, I was very pleased to see that had applied for when the trustee positions and the clerk positions were open. And very excited to see people coming back, that their perspective is fantastic. Along with Trustee Farina, last year I did abstain on voting for this. I believe there was a conflict of interest potential. And again, this year I will abstain because of that same issue. Thank you, Mayor.
Very well. Anyone else? Well, I think this time we'll go to our clerk, Brian Fury, for the vote.
Okay, Trustee Farina,
Abstain.
Trustee Ogle,
Abstain.
Trustee Petro,
Yes,
Trustee Severia,
Yes.
Trustee Borelli,
Yes.
Trustee Clavio.
Yes.
Next item on the mayor's report is waiver of fees for military personnel on active duty resolution. And we've been doing this for a number of years, and it's a sign of support to our residents who are serving in the military and their families. We extend the temporary waiver of sewer and water fees for qualified residents and utility customers of the village of Frankfort. They have to be on deployment for a minimum of 6 months duration. So once approved, the waiver of fees shall remain in effect for a period of 6 months, after which time, if the qualifying resident remains on active duty, the waiver may be renewed upon completion and submittal of another application about his deployment or her deployment. So I'd entertain a motion to adopt a resolution authorizing the waiver of water and sewer fees for a period of 6 months for Village of Frankfort military personnel serving on active duty in the armed forces of the United States.
So move.
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Trustee Farina and a second by Trustee Ogle. Any discussion? Then all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. And then, as I mentioned at our last meeting 2 weeks ago, we have two of our board members. We have Trustee Borelli and Clerk Fury, who are on the front line. Clerk Fury said a few words last meeting about his job as a nurse and out there face to face with people with this COVID-19. Now, Trustee Borelli works for the Army Corps of Engineers, and he was deployed the last couple of weeks down in Springfield. And Adam, could you tell us something about what you were doing?
Sure, Mr. Mayor, thanks for the opportunity. Because there's a federal disaster has been declared, and because the state has declared a disaster, the state can request financial assistance from the federal government. And back in mid-March, that's exactly what they did. They obviously, I think a lot of us saw projections and the potential for our hospitals to exceed capacity, and that was a pretty scary prospect. And so through FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, the state gets money, they put in a request, and then FEMA goes out and uses different federal agencies to meet that request. And so the thought here was to build the alternate care facilities to help add capacity and add patient beds for COVID patients. And so there was sort of 3 steps to that. There was sort of 3 legs to the stool, so to speak. One was having the site, the building. One was to supply that site, and then another one was to staff it. The site, the building is what the Corps was asked to do and help out with. And that's what we did. And so we did some assessments. The Corps went around and assessed various buildings all throughout Illinois, including Lincoln Way North, in fact. What they came up with was McCormick Place turned out to be sort of the one they could do the cheapest and the quickest. So that's one that is actively being worked on right now. And then there was 3 area hospitals, Chicago area hospitals that were recently closed. That it made sense from a speed perspective to reopen those. And so there was a process of going in, recommissioning the systems, doing some repairs. And so that was the focus of the last 3 or 4 weeks. And McCormick Place is online. It's taking patients, and the 3 hospitals will be ready on Friday to take patients. So the speed at which this happened was unbelievable. It's amazing what you could do when the rules are kind of laxed and they let us just go. And a fantastic joint effort between the federal government, between the state, our contractors. I think McCormick had something like 300 contractors and subcontractors and suppliers involved. There was contractors that were putting their current work on hold just to come help out. They were waiving their profits and fees. It was really unbelievable to see. Now it turns out that it looks like we might not need them. And so I think that was our hope all along, was that we didn't need to use them, but I'm glad we did. I think there might be some second guessing, but same time, I think it was the right move, and I couldn't be more proud to be a part of that effort. So the last 3 weeks I've been down in Springfield as the Army Corps' liaison to the state. The one sort of running this show is the Illinois Emergency Management Agency. And they really had the heavy lift, because not only were they building these sites or coordinating that, but they were also in charge of supplying them and staffing them. And that was really the hard part of this, was finding those supplies and that staff. So very challenging, very interesting. National Guard was heavily involved. In fact, one of our own here in Frankfort, General Mark Jackson is in the National Guard, and ran into him there. We had a pizza together. He's a great guy, doing great things. And just a fantastic experience altogether. I did want to say, I saw the last board meeting. What we're doing is great, but we were also in a bunker with we're not on the front lines. We were, taken care of well. I have great respect for Brian, all the nurses and doctors out there that are actually facing it. Our first responders, John, our police, our firefighters, and there's so many others. So appreciate all that you guys are doing too.
Well, Adam, we appreciate what you're doing, and thank you very much. Certainly you and Brian set an example for our community, and thank you.
Thanks, Mayor.
So next item on the mayor's report was a comment from last week's village board meeting, or 2 weeks ago village board meeting. The trustees and I discussed the concept of the Plan Commission holding a remote video public hearing concerning a proposed development at Wolf and Laraway Roads. Since then, our village attorney has pointed out to us that the governor's statement that temporarily allows for this type of remote public hearing only allows for issues that are necessary to be heard. At this time, the staff does not believe that this issue is necessary to be heard, and therefore the staff has no plans to schedule this particular public hearing. We appreciate the comments that we received from the public about the discussion, and staff will keep those people who provided their email addresses informed about any future meetings about this issue. And finally, another comment about the COVID-19 situation. I participate in a number of weekly phone calls with the governor and state and other local officials about the COVID-19 pandemic. Some recent conversations have discussed what the start of a return to normal might look like. It appears that a phased approach of gradually reopening our businesses and communities will begin and move forward as various thresholds are met. We should hear more from state authorities soon. At your village government, we're spending extra time on activities that we believe can help people manage their lives through a pandemic. The village's public works crew are working on 25 extra projects to improve the appearance of our downtown. They include painting and landscape projects, as well as repair and improvement projects. Some residents have asked if we will plant annuals around the village and provide hanging flower baskets in our downtown this year. Yes, we will. These plans are a sign of normal that all of us need to see now more than ever before. In addition, these beautification projects are and economic development tool. They not only attract more customers to businesses in our downtown, but they also make Frankfort more desirable, and this helps increase the value of each of our residential properties. Speaking of economic development, the staff is looking into recovery programs, and certainly we've heard some concern about those with the expected loss of revenue coming up. So they will be well discussed before we move ahead. But as envisioned, the program could help each one of our residents, and it could also help each one of the Frankfort businesses, with a bit of an extra emphasis on the smaller independent businesses. To implement the plan, we need our so-called non-essential businesses to reopen. We expect the state to publish plans for gradually reopening businesses. The plans will be triggered by such issues as the reduction of the spread of the virus and the ability of healthcare workers to handle patients in a normal manner. The early phases of reopening will likely still require the concept of social distancing and other preventive measures. The current state order required the village to cancel spring events such as our Earth Day and our spring market. As we approach summer, we will evaluate each Frankfort event according to the appropriate state guideline. While I do not expect a quick return to normal, the village government will continue to do what we can to enhance the quality of our community and protect the people from COVID-19. For now, the stay-at-home order remains in effect. So stay home and stay healthy. We now go to our police chief, John Barica, for the police department report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As we get a lot of questions about COVID-19, we'd like to remind people that the village's website is kept up to date with a lot of information on it. It's a good place to go to see what has been updated. There's PSAs on there, information on essential businesses and other alerts. We also remind people that we have our Facebook page up, where we try to bring up things that are going on, such as some of the scams that are going on with PSAs, as well as even tax returns. So if you keep track of that, keep looking on our Facebook. We try to update that every so often. Always remember, if you get an email or a call that's unsolicited asking for any of your personal information, hang up, find the number to call back on, and get that information that way. The IRS does not call you, and many of these COVID scams that are going on are people trying to get information out of you. We do also ask for voluntary compliance. Frankfort's been very good with it, but we ask for people to comply with the governor's orders until they change, keep updated with them, and keep social distancing going. The more that people do that, the more it keeps us all safe. We appreciate that. Remind people too, we have online reporting. If you want to make a report, you can go to the website. There's a simple link there. You can make a report. Those should be past tense reports. Do not make one that is an ongoing crime or a crime in progress. That you should still call dispatch or call 911 for those. We don't want you making them that way. We want to, of course, thank all the first responders out there, the hospital workers, the frontline workers, and all those that are supporting us too, including the Army Corps of Engineers, who does a great job there. And also we want to thank all of those that do stay at home. We really do appreciate it. It makes our jobs a lot easier. And then, of course, I wouldn't be remiss if I did not remind people to lock their doors, put their garage doors down, do not leave your keys or key fobs in there. Those criminals are still out there, and they're still trying to take cars and break into them. So try to keep us all safe by doing that. And that's all I have tonight.
Thank you, John. And we'll go to our village administrator, Rob Pisha, for the village administrator's report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Also want to echo what Chief Barica said and the mayor said. I think our community has done a great job of coming together during this time. As you know, we had the program where we're also kind of monitoring, trying to make sure that people are social distancing. And I think overall people are doing a pretty good job of that now. And they understand that it's really to protect the vulnerable people in our community. And so just wanted to thank everybody for staying together on this. And the quicker we abide by these rules, or the longer we do it, it's just one of those things that we'll get through this much quicker and get back to normal. Also just wanted to bring up that residents have been asking, there's a letter that was received for those who are part of our electrical aggregation program from Constellation Energy. It's just a standard form letter that's required to be sent each year. just letting them know that they are being represented by Constellation through the aggregation program. We have our rates locked in till October of 21 with Constellation through the Will County Group. And also that right now the rates between Constellation and ComEd are almost identical. So I think either way you went, you're not saving or losing money. But just for the residents that have gotten that letter, that all it is a form letter. You don't have to do anything. You're automatically part of the group unless you opt out. And that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Rob. And now for the village attorney's report, we go to our attorney, Hannah Lamore.
No report tonight, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, anything from you, George?
No, nothing, Mayor.
All right, very well. Then at this time, we are at a part of our business we call other business. And we'll start this evening with Trustee Borelli.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wanted to thank you personally for the videos that you're putting out. I think those have been helpful. The residents have been asking for a little bit of feedback from the village. So I think those have been great, and I appreciate you putting those together. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Well, thank you very much. We have a couple more of them coming out this week.
Looking forward
So
to it.
Trustee Ogle.
Hey, thank you, Mayor. This summer, some of our favorite events are already getting canceled. The country market, the farmers markets across the country. One of my favorites is not a Frankfort event. It's the Pierogi Fest out in Whiting at the end of July. They decided to cancel that one. Heartbroken. The Friday night parade is a riot out there. But I didn't realize also that event was put on by all volunteers, 600 volunteers for their particular event. And you know, their concerns out there, you know, they're hoping that they were hoping by, you know, this summer, by the fall, whether people will be ready to be elbow to elbow. And I know we will look at each of our events as we go along here too. And you know, the guidelines, of course, we all have to go through these too. So by, you know, we're probably at phase 3 to have any, you know, substantial gatherings of people. And, you know, Kim and Kristen and I, we sit and watch the governor and then the president every day for their press conferences. There's something new each time to find out, you know, what the criteria will be. The federal criteria is different than what will happen here in the state of Illinois and in the city of Chicago. So we're hopeful. You know, public safety is one of our key responsibilities. So again, I'm hoping for the best, and let's keep our fingers crossed too. So that's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, Keith. Trustee Petro.
Thank you, Mayor Holland. I too just wanted to, we look forward to the new public service announcements. I think that during this time, you know, I applaud our residents for staying home, as Chief has said, but also staying connected. And I think it's a great opportunity that we're leveraging this different technology and just reaching out, because I know our community feels much more connected and involved with that. Also, I just want to say, Adam, thank you for the updates. Really interesting work that you're participating in. And I think it's always best to err on the side of caution with what we're dealing with, and glad that we had those resources available. And again, Brian, thank you, and all of the people on the front line for what they're doing. I mean, our scientists, our doctors, our nurses, our first responders, our grocery workers, you know, all these heroes are definitely wearing lots of different capes right now. So just wanted to stay home, stay safe, everyone. And thank you for that everyone's doing out there.
Thank you, Jessica. Trustee Clavio.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have nothing this evening.
Thank you, John. Trustee Severia.
I just want to continue to thank the first responders, Adam, Brian, great job out there. The village staff for patrolling the trails. You know, we're supposed to be social distancing. I'm still seeing people out there that aren't on the trail. Keep your distance. I saw somebody on the dock the other day. We have that, you know, barricaded off for a reason. But anyways, you know, I just want to continue to thank all of you for all you've been doing. Mayor, great job on the videos.
Well, thank you, Gene. Trustee Farina.
Thanks, Mayor Holland. I just want to acknowledge our staff who have been working different hours, and we are trying to protect them and their health. I know the police have changed how they conduct business as well, and we're still providing services, and that's because our staff are working hard, even on Saturdays now. So I just want to thank them. They do send us updates. They're always available to us, and I really appreciate it. And I hope the residents understand just how hard our staff work and what good people they are. And they're going through this with us, but yet they're the ultimate professionals, and they get business done for us as a village. And I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Margaret. And Clerk Fury.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I just want to take a second to acknowledge all the kids that are off of school. And got one back there that this is my daughter, and she's a senior. And, you know, she was a little bit heartbroken that she doesn't get to finish her second semester of senior year. And it's actually kind of devastating if it's something you look forward to your whole life, and prom, and especially your senior year. And it's something that it's very tough, and it's very emotional for a lot of these kids. So I just want to make sure that parents out there are supported and think about you know, how tough it is for kids to go through this weird time. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Absolutely, Brian. We're all sympathetic to that, and they're going to miss it. So at this time, let's see, public comments. Do we have any public comments?
Mr. Mayor, we just had a couple of emails that came through earlier. And I'm not sure if they were actually directed for the meeting itself, but just a couple of questions that the staff did respond to them individually. So I think they've been handled. One had to do with question of the order about masks, and the other one was just about essential businesses.
Well, what's appropriate here? Should we read the comment, or what makes sense? George will tip us off.
Mayor, if we have the comment in hand, I think I'd read it so that the viewing audience and the people who look at this later on know what the question was and how we answered it.
Perfect. You have it there, Rob? I have a copy.
Yeah, the first one of the comments was the question of whether the village was going to mandate the wearing of masks, as other communities are doing. And I responded to that resident, and just to let them know that as with other things, I believe that the board will follow the direction provided by the state and Will County Health Department. And the fact that I think that the communities that they're seeing are doing it do have home rule powers up on the north side, and they may have also declared a disaster. So I think that's what they're seeing with those. So the concern obviously is an enforcement issue, as you see with the social distancing, but I think the biggest thing is just to follow the direction that potentially the state will do.
Well, and I agree, Rob, and I answered that email also. And really, from the beginning of this COVID-19 issue, Frankfort has taken medical advice from county, state, and federal authorities. We don't have our own health department. And I really think that the public is best served by following the guidance that we get from the experts at the county, state, and federal government. So next.
And the next question is that there was a question of whether Allsup Nursery would be considered an essential business under the governor's orders, and if they were allowed to stay open. And Chief Barica did respond to that email, or to that comment. And the answer is yes. Allsup Nursery satisfies two requirements under essential businesses. One being with the home improvement and landscaping and what they support there. And they also, as many know, that they do run a pet shelter inside Allsup Nursery. So again, businesses that provide dog and cat food and sheltering for animals can stay open. So yes, the answer to that question is they are considered an essential business.
Perfect. Any other public comments? Then at this time, I would entertain a motion to adjourn into executive session per 5 ILCS 120/2C1, and that's about personnel compensation.
So moved.
We have a motion by trustee Ogle
Second,
and a second by trustee Farina. We need to go to our clerk, Brian Feary, for a vote.
Okay. Trustee Severia,
Yes.
trustee Borelli,
Yes.
trustee Clavio,
Yes.
trustee Farina,
yes.
trustee Ogle,
Yes.
trustee Petro.
Yes.
So at this time, we will adjourn into executive session, and we're basically going to do that, folks, by just signing off of this Zoom meeting and then signing back into another Zoom meeting. And then after we're finished with executive session, we'll sign back into this meeting. I hope that all works. So let's give it a try and see how we do.
Be patient with me.
Okay. Let's see. Maybe.
Sure, how do I disconnect? Thanks.
Just FYI, I think you had to leave this meeting and they'll call you in on the other one.
I exit out. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye. Well, they're going to executive session. They're still talking. Yeah. I'm leaving it on so I can see when they come back.
Should I press this?
I think I better call Jeff. Oh, there he is. Are we all here? 2, 3, 4.
Missing Brian. We're missing our clerk
And Jean.
and Jean.
Now we're missing Jean too. They're searching for that email, Rob. Oops, you're muted,
Muted.
Rob.
How about now?
There you go.
Yeah, I think trying to find to go back and rejoin the meeting. Yeah, you had to go back and look for there they go. There's Jean.
There's Jean.
Hey, sorry, guys.
Well, we're still missing Brian.
The new mail put Rob's mail in another folder, so I had to go find it.
Well, it was, it's part of the thing is just making an Easter egg hunt. You just had to try to find where it was.
This is going to be a bit of a strange meeting for the, if we play the whole thing for the television, because it'll have that interlude in it. I think normally we just stop at the end of.
That is correct.
Yeah, we could probably still do that and just stop.
I was going to say, I think all we need, you can just make you have the board here. You can make a motion to adjourn. I think that's all it's
Yep.
left.
I think we will. We'll just figure that Brian is lost in cyberspace somewhere. So we are gathered back in open session. Is there anything more for the village board tonight? And hearing nothing, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by trustee Ogle and a second by trustee Farina to adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Then this meeting is adjourned. Good night and thank you very much, everybody. It's certainly a very interesting meeting.
Good night.
Good
Good
night.
night, all.
Bye.
See ya.
Bye.